last year, the Queensland government, arbitrarily and without consultation, dramatically increased the royalties it charges on fossil fuels like coal and gas. It's no small thing. This industry was already contributing $94.6 billion a year to the Queensland economy. And while Labor said these royalty increases would deliver to government coffers an additional $765 million, in fact, it has delivered an extra $3 billion. In the 2020-21 to 22 financial year, Queensland coal producers contributed $7.2 billion in royalties to the state budget. Using the previous method of calculating royalties, this amount would have risen because of the change in coal prices, and it would have gone up to $9.6 billion, a record. But the government's changes mean that instead of that record, they have instead collected $15.3 billion. It means the royalties paid for mining in Queensland are the highest in the world, no joke, and 5 times what is due in New South Wales. And it has put over $100 billion of investment that was planned for Queensland mining at risk, simply because it's no longer a competitive place to do business. Now, to add insult, the Queensland government then spent $1.5 million in taxpayer funds to spruik their policy of upping taxes. You couldn't make this stuff up. The Queensland Resources Council ran one of the meekest, most polite campaigns against the move that I think has ever been known to politics. When it could have rallied Queensland voters to defend the prosperity of their families, it ever so politely asked the government to reconsider its position. It's almost as though they were terrified of the government rather than prepared to fight a shocking policy. Now, already, $2 billion worth of planned investment has been lost to Queensland. 2,000 Queensland mining jobs went too. And given it's the mining industry that supports 7,100 local jobs in Townsville, over 38,000 in Mackay and over 10,000 in Rockhampton, these communities literally live or die on whether it remains viable. Now, it was a desperate move from a treasurer swimming in debt to raise royalties without notice or consultation and to the highest levels in the world. It treated the jobs of regional Queenslanders with contempt. But if you wanted proof that the Palaszczuk government is rotten beyond repair, you need only look to the way Treasurer Cameron Dick has compounded his error. Today, he has threatened the mining leases of those companies that have reconsidered their investment position now that they face an environment of higher taxes. Quite frankly, they had no other option. Their duties to shareholders required no less. But BHP, for example, has consistently observed that the Queensland government's increased taxes mean future growth in the state is not viable. And instead of hearing that concern, engaging with the industry and seeking to make Queensland an attractive place to invest, Treasurer Dick has instead threatened the commercial interests that are presently held by affected companies. Like I said before, you couldn't make this stuff up. The Queensland Treasurer has just threatened the jobs and livelihoods of more than 450,000 tax-paying, hardworking Queenslanders in the resources sector by making this not only a state plagued by sovereign risk, but now government coercion of corporate actors. And why? Because the government's own decisions to jack up taxes have made it an unattractive place to invest. Well, Mr. Dick, policy decisions like tax hikes have consequences. And since you're the one who hiked them up, those consequences are on you. It's just more proof of what you get with the state parliament full of Labor hacks who've never had a real job.